Well, let's get started putting this thing together. Hi, and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude, and part number 2 of the Monogram 1/35 scale M8 armored car. In episode 1, we talked about the box, the contents, what my plan is, kind of my background working with these Monogram models, and why I'm actually building this. So we won't rehash all that. Let's just dive right in and start building this thing. So we'll start out with step number 1 here. So what I'll do is I'll cut parts off, clean them up. I'll talk a little bit about what I'm doing, but I'm not going to get too in depth and all that. I'll just get started and then maybe do some sub-assemblies and talk a little bit about that. Okay, got some parts primed here so I can spray the interior color. So let's move back over here so we can do some other stuff while we wait for it to cure. And I don't know if you noticed it on that last quick little glimpse of the desktop. I'm using Testors liquid cement for plastic. This is the old school stuff. And got this full bottle and just a little bit left in this bottle, and then I'll be out. But I really like this stuff, and I figured it appropriate for building an older kit. So while that stuff is drying over there, I'm going to go ahead and cut these wheels off. Get them cleaned up, glued together, and ready for primer. All right, quick tip. Got a lot of stuff going on here. As you can see, while I've got some of this other stuff drying, I'm working on these figures a little bit. Now, there are some things that you can do to make a figure look a little bit better. So let's talk about it. And I learned this from one of Shepard Payne's old diorama books or modeling books, whichever one it was, where he talks about figures. And a lot of these figures back in the day came molded in one piece, and you ended up with sleeves like that. It was just like a blob with a hand coming out of it. All right, so what he recommended, and I've done it before and I'm doing it today, is you simply cut the hand off, and hopefully you have enough wrist to make it work. But you cut the hand off, then you, using drill bits, the knife point, whatever, you hollow out the sleeve. Now, that's not to scale, and I'm not going to take it any further because I don't want to take a chance of really messing it up. But once you do that and you glue the hand in, it looks quite a bit better. It's not perfect, but on one of these old figures like this, it's just a way to help out just a little bit to where it doesn't look quite so bad. And you end up with that. If nothing else, at least the sleeve is more angular as opposed to being a molded, soft looking blob. All right, so that's just a quick tip if you're using older figures or if you just feel like doing something like that. All right, a quick look at what's going on here. So I got the interior painted and weathered, and I didn't get real detailed with the weathering. I just wanted to dirty it up a little bit because you're going to be seeing it through a hole about that big, so there's not going to be a lot to see, especially on the sides. But I did want to do some. So I painted everything. I used AK Gen 3 paints to paint the seat cushions, the wood slats, and the steering wheel. The sides, I taped all that off and sprayed it with Mr. Hobby Aqueous Black. And then to weather it, I used MIG Panel Line Wash PLW Deep Gray. Panel Line Wash Deep Gray. And put that on there, and then just kind of let it sit for a few minutes, and then hit it with the old Q-tip / cotton bud. So that dirties it up good enough for what this is. So now I can move on to the lower portion of the hull and start putting all the suspension and all that kind of stuff on. fast forward a bit. So basically I have construction completed. I'll show you the kit in just a second. Talk a little bit about what's going on. So all these parts, as I mentioned, those went fine. All of this stuff fit just great. No problems. Had to clean up some mold seam lines, stuff like that. But there was no issues. Again, I've not put on the wheels because I want to do that after I do some weathering. But the wheels went together good. And here we are. This is what the wheels look like. I used Mr. Hobby Aqueous tire color for the rubber portion. I used Tamiya XF62 olive drab for the painted portion there. And then it's real shiny because I put a clear coat on it for doing washes, etc. So got that done. Now, the one part that wasn't like super easy were these fenders. It's a big long piece and it fits on here. And in the front, kind of had a little bit of trouble getting it to fit right. But in the end, I was able to get it. I kind of monkeyed up one side, and I'll show you what I did here in a minute. But in the end, it worked out fine. Again, this is a 1982 kit based off of a 1976, mold. So we can expect Tamiya quality. Turret was fine. Had to do a little bit of filling here where this part goes onto this. And I will show how that turned out. Turned out okay. All these little parts. Again, I mentioned it in the look at the box contents. These little small loops and stuff like that. Handles, small like round parts. You're only having to deal with a mold seam line, not misaligned mold problems. So that was kind of nice. Let's see. But really, everything fit just fine. So let's take a look at what we've got. Here we go, all painted up and ready for Decals. And I'll talk about those in a minute. But everything went together fine, except for these fenders. I had to get a little creative. I had to do some filling along that seam there. And then this seam here, I had to fill and sand it. And I used, on one side, I used some gray sprue goo. And on the other side, I used some clear sprue goo. And I've discovered that I kind of prefer the clear just because it makes it easy to sand. And it seems to dry a little bit harder than the gray. So this one here turned out pretty good. It's not quite a sharp angle there like it should be, but this side here, without thinking, I sanded this upper plate instead of sanding down here. So that's kind of like wrong, and you can see the seam line right there, but it's gonna have to do. Other than that, everything's just jolly. So with that, I am ready for decals. Originally I said I was not going to use the decals, and I thought, well, maybe I should try and use them. So I tried a sample right there, and as you can see, it has some weird milky outline on it. So then I tried another one underneath where you can't see, and you can see that milky outline. That is not silvering. That is just some, I'm guessing it's the adhesive through the years. It just turned like this kind of milky. So I opted not to use these. So I dug into the spares box. And that's why it's a good thing to keep old decal sets. Because, as I mentioned in the first video, I built the Tamiya version of the US M8 light armored car. And I only used a few of the decals. Well, guess what? I still had them, and it's the same exact markings. C30, 7, got the star, Colbert C30, and even the same markings or vehicle IDs. So I'm set. I'm good to go. So I'll be able to use these Tamiya decals on here instead. So sweet, sweet. So I'm going to go ahead and work on that, and then I will come back and we'll take a look at it. Okay, we're done here with the decals. Tamiya decals, they went on fine, no issues. Just letting them cure up with the I use Mark Fit decal solution to get them to lay down, and they have done so nicely. I'm going to put a little bit more. Actually, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Solvaset. That is my favorite. I don't use their big brush. I use this soft brush, so I can control how much goes on there a little bit better. Just put a thin layer on there, mainly on the ones that have to conform to stuff. Do that one there. Now the decal that came with the Monogram kit, it was made in such a way that whenever you saw the star from directly above, it was proportioned correctly to compensate for those sharp angles. So the star was kind of weird looking just when laid flat, but when put on there. And that's one of those things that a lot of manufacturers don't really think of nowadays. Now, was that the way they did it? I don't know. Whenever they painted these things during wartime or peacetime or whatever, but that's what we get now, so that's okay. So we'll let that cure up, and then we'll start thinking about doing, we'll start thinking about doing some clear coat over top of that, but we'll do a some washes first, but we'll be back. All right, fast forward a whole lot. It's done. Got the figures kind of painted up. Wasn't too, too careful with them. I was testing some new colors, uniform colors. And these figures are really soft, so I basically use it as an exercise. And it looks about like I would have painted it back in the mid-late 70s when this kit came out. But it was a fun kit to build. I enjoyed it. Obviously it's not a modern kit by any stretch of the imagination, but it was still a lot of fun. Very nostalgic. Took me back to the younger years. As far as weathering, I took it really easy. I just basically did some dry brushing, and then I hit it with some Tamiya Buff, thinned a whole lot just to give it kind of a dusty appearance. I didn't do any mud, anything like that. I didn't do any scratches, scuffing. I basically did it the way I would have done it back then. So I'm pretty stoked. I'm going to be pretty happy to have this one on the shelf next to my Screamin' Mimi and my Panzer IV and my Weasel. So I've got a nice little collection of Monogram kits going. And if I can find any for decent prices, there'll be more in the future, just for fun. So anyway, that's it. That's the Monogram 1/32/135 scale M8 armored car. So hopefully you enjoyed following along with this build and all of its, stuff. And if you like the video and you want to see more of my stuff, or if you want to see if I actually know what I'm doing on any of my models, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button so the algorithm can do its thing, whatever that is. So, again, thanks for joining me here for the Monogram 1/35th scale M8 armored car. And until next time, thanks for watching Plastic Models by a Regular Dude, and I will see you all later.